a little camp spot right there. There's a dish bowl volcano there, and then the sunrise there. Probably in another half hour, a little more than that, something like that. Just back here. I hope the volume's moving just a tad bit closer. Yeah, I hope that'll work. All right. So this is my good life meditation. It's my daily activity to remind myself of my objectives and principles. Something that I do every day to keep me grounded in the things that are important to me. Not just important. This isn't everything that's just important to me. This is everything that this is the stuff that keeps me between lane lines, right? Back just a little bit. Keeps me focused on living, making good use of the time that I've got. Living the best life that I possibly can. It's very important to me that I live well. The reason actually is if we read if we read good and evil, if not reason is written in the stone, if good and evil are written in the stone, and we read it differently, then what do? We segregate ourselves from one another, put up a wall, or we fight and kill one another until one of us is left with their idea of reason, or of good and evil. Instead, if it's an opinion, then we can talk about it. Next, number 5, is the purpose. There's 2 purposes in my life. One is to reproduce. That's a biological mandate. I've done that. My daughter's almost grown. And 2 is, well, that's it, really. 2 is, it's kind of a mandate to live, but that's part of the reproduction one. The sun's about to go over that horizon. So I made up my own purpose. My purpose is to live, to be a virtuous man, to be a good man, to live a good life. A good life not in terms of pleasures necessarily, but of the perpetuation and the performance of things that make the world a better place. And it's objective things. Like, these are things that we can talk about and agree upon. Things like comprehensive education, helping to ensure that as many children as possible get as much education as possible. That people have the opportunity to vote and for representation. That there's good communication between the races and the sexes. And that justice can be pursued and served and delivered and had. These are high-aiming things, but these are all things that I can help. Okay, number 6, the atomic principle. Everything in the universe is made of bits and pieces. This sand. Just like that, so too, you, me, that motorcycle, all of it. And pretty soon, I'm going to dissolve away, because I'm going to die. And then all of these little pieces of mine are going to rot and decay away or burn up. And I'll be back ashes to ashes, dust to dust, as the saying goes. It's good to remember that. So too the homunculus, going with me. 7, the the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. It's good to know to recognize what that nature is and to abide it and live according to it. I always like to give an example. Like, it's the nature of this sun to come over this horizon, come over the horizon every day, once every 24 hours, and to come blast across this valley with intense UV radiation. It is, after all, July today, and it's going to be a hot one, over 100 degrees, maybe 105, 110 degrees today. And as soon as it does so, my body temperature is going to start to rise, and also my skin is going to be bombarded by ultraviolet radiation. It could cause problems later. This is the nature of what's about to happen. So, in accordance with that nature, I can ready myself. Because heaven knows, I want to live in accordance with the true nature of the world. Put this water right there. Don't fall, water. Right in there. So I got myself some sunscreen. Slab this stuff on. Here it's about to come. Woo! Feels good. So too you and I. We have our own natures. One part of my nature is that I really love to come out to places like this and do stuff like this. To stand barefoot and almost naked in the desert. To get rocks poking through my feet, poking into my feet, and to feel grime layering upon me and sweat. And to feel the anxiety of being alone in a very remote place, you know, without much help, no help, really. I mean, I wouldn't die here. My phone works. But you get the idea. I love this stuff. It's my nature to pursue it. That's enough. Make sure I get the back. I'll get my legs later. Yeah, I'll do them now. So, okay, so there you go. Enough about the nature thing. So I do this all the time. I do it at work. You know, I go into a meeting and I ask myself, what's the nature of this particular meeting, the people that are going to be in it, the objectives that we're pursuing, the, you know, what's all that kind of stuff. And then I try to do my meeting as a project manager in accordance with that. And likewise, my family, my friends, all kinds of activities. I think you get the idea. Want to take a look at the sunrise? Almost there. And here comes another train. So that's the principle of nature. Number 8 is the principle of maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. Maturity is that state that we achieve when we have some experience and we know better what to do. But that wisdom is useless if we don't have the discipline. What is this? There's something in here. If we don't have the discipline to make good use of, to follow that. So that's where the fortitude comes in. So wisdom, the experience, fortitude, the discipline, self-discipline to follow our best path, or the best path that's been offered to us and reasonably argued to us. If you could do those things, you got a hold of some wisdom there, or some maturity. That's what that is. Next is the social principle. We're social animals. We need one another to survive. And our best ends are social ends. That's why I like my job, because I get to do things that help people. That's why I like making these videos, because hopefully maybe this will help someone who's maybe a little bit lost. I know this sounds like kind of I don't know. It feels awkward doing this sometimes. It feels like, you know, who am I to say anything to anybody else? But you don't have to watch this video. Otherwise, it's just some middle-aged guy, you know, ranting in the desert all by himself. But if these ideas do happen to strike a chord with you or mean something to you, then good. It didn't hurt anybody. I had fun doing it. Oh gosh, the ants are coming out. I'm gonna get covered in ants. I gotta go quick. Okay, next is 10 is the Feast of Offal. Offal is, of course, you know, the waste and byproduct of butchery. And who would gobble up, you know, toenails and hair and skin and gallbladders from, you know, after a butcher's thing? We wouldn't, right? We'd make them into a sausage, hide what it is, and then eat it. But for some reason, we are more than willing to gobble up the waste and byproduct of poor living, of an undisciplined, unprincipled life. When we're living our lives and we're getting upset and we're yelling into road rage and all this stuff, and we see somebody doing that and like, you honking at me? Well, screw you! And then we gobble it up, their rage and frustration, and then we give it back out ourselves. It's a strange thing that we do this. Why don't we just, you know, look at them and say, oh, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day. You know, I hope you're able to handle that better in the future, you know? But we don't. We kind of get angry and upset. I call that the feast of others' offal. And I try not to consume that, and I try not to give it out myself. Even though I do have those frustrations, of course, too. Okay, 11. Temperance and 3 sub-principles: suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is our ability, and I'm going a little fast because, well, I don't know why. Why am I going fast? Because I feel the sun coming up and I know it's already there. Here it is. And it's going to burn me out of this spot pretty soon. I want to get over to the bridge. And here comes the train. There's no way I'm going to beat the train. It's going to be loud. Temperance. 3 sub-principles: suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is our ability to control our consumption or our expression. Like I'm trying right now to temper my words, to temper my energies. Because just a moment ago I was trying to race through all of this to beat the sun and beat the train, and I realized I can't do that because it's their nature to get here before I get this thing done. So I might as well just kind of go with it a little bit, temper my mind and temper my expression. Maybe just listen to that. The train's stopping. Or just slowing down. You want to see? It's a long one. You know, the sun's here. Got ants on me. Comes the horn. Oh, there's another train. I like the way it does that reverberating sound. As the sound echoes, passes through the slots in the trains as that last bit of horn. Okay, let's finish this up. So temperance, suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Suffering because we suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. Simplicity because a simple life is a temperate life. And apathy because apathy is the ability to recognize what's outside our control and to not let ourselves be bothered too much by what we can't do anything about. Doesn't mean we don't care. Next, number 12 is the agency and the great indifference. You and I are agents. These plants are agents. Anything that's alive is an agent, so to speak. It's got some sort of a life going on. To subtract out all the agents, all life, and you're left with the great indifference. great indifference is the sum total of all the inorganic matter of the universe. It just doesn't give a damn about you or me. There's no God back there apparently. It's just us. Not that we're gods, but that we just got one another. Next, and that's why I come out here, is to encounter this great indifference. Next is 13. The best seat in the house. To not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be okay where I am, who I am, and what I'm doing. Well, all the while striving to make things better. It's a delicate balance act there. Best seat in the house. Number 14, the Path of Wildness. Path of Wildness is a way to get unstuck in life. When you're kind of in a position and you kind of want something different, maybe you want to move forward into something else, a new phase of life, and it's okay, you can have the best seat in the house and still want to be moving forward, right? But you kind of feel a little trepidation, a little anxiety, not so sure if you can pull this off. Path of Wildness is a way to get unstuck. It's a way to say, okay, I'm going to allocate myself some time to think about this, make a choice, and then when that time is up, I'll make my decision and then move forward. And then start thinking about it, collecting facts, and when that time comes, either make a decision or give yourself some more time. But only give yourself time within reason. If you continue to give yourself time indefinitely, then you can spend your whole life, vacillating and deliberating. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe I will, maybe I won't. What? I'm in the retirement home? How did that happen? Where'd my life go? So what I say is, what I suggest is, give yourself some time, collect some thoughts, think about it, and then when that time is up, make a decision. And if you don't have enough facts, you still want some more facts, and it's really time to make the decision, then let yourself be informed of your gut. What does your gut say? I don't always trust my gut, but I use it as an instrument to get unstuck. And then I go with that. And I started doing this when I was living in Japan, and I would be hiking, and I would come to a fork in the road, and which way do I go in the canyon, right or left? And I would just kind of use my gut feeling and say, right! Sometimes it would be to the edge of a waterfall, or I would run into giant hornets or something like that, so it wouldn't be such a good path. Or sometimes it would lead me where I wanted. So I always recognize it doesn't mean it's going to be a good decision, but at least it's a decision. At least it's moving forward. And there's some virtue in moving forward. Number 14, the risk of avoiding risk. I think it's 14. When we're young, we're presented with three primary objectives to avoid risks, if you will. The objective and risk of not getting enough education, not settling down with somebody to spend your life with, and not being prudent with your money. Building a house, building an estate, all that kind of stuff. These are relatively easy things to address. But guess what? We're more complicated than that. So if you find yourself doing just that, if that's really the extent of your interest, then you're in good shape. However, if there's got something more to you, if you want after something else, that deeper, richer, if I may call it that, deeper, because for me, that perspective, this deeper, richer essence of life of going out and having adventure and finding yourself, so to speak, and discovering some art and all that kind of stuff, then you better do that. Because if you don't, it's going to eat into you. The hippies were onto something with all that. They just watch out because they went a little too far, maybe. So do you. So do you. So do I. That's why I only do this every 2 weeks. It's also why I settled down in life and married and raised a family. So I have that stability. I also got my education. But now I have this too, and this has made all the difference. So I recommend, and I told this to my daughter too, give yourself the decade of the 20s to go as far as you can with education, have as many adventures as you can, try to avoid getting yourself or anyone else pregnant in the process, and then when the 20s are up, start your 30s, then you'll be well sated with the experiences of life and seasoned with it as well, and you'll be if you're alive still, because you could die. You could wind up in prison somewhere. Be careful. But safe, but not too safe. But if you do that, if you give yourself that 20, you'll emerge out the other end with a degree. I recommend getting at least a bachelor's or a master's degree. And I'm a strong advocate of the liberal arts, by the way. I recommend speech communications, excellent degree to get in, because it's a good, learning how to communicate well with people is a great generalist tool for whatever you wind up doing in the long run. Get your education, get out there, have some adventures. Klondike is the next stop, or sighting. For honk again? Just once? Two? Short? Long? It's interesting because that's the lead of the train, which is like a mile away, and the rear of the train just passed. It's a long train. So then when you're done, when you go out in your 30s, then try to settle into a career. You'll be a little late compared to some. You know, some will have a whole decade on you. They may have a house and halfway through their, a third of the way through their mortgage. They may have kids, all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of time. But remember, that's a risk. You may not get those things because you waited, but there's still time. And then you can start building up that stuff. And by the time you're 40, I think you'll find you're well caught up for the most part. Yeah, it's a gamble. I mean, it's the risk. It's the path of wildness. Because it's leading off into a direction with some gut feeling that you're going to find your way through. There's no guarantees. Next is sin and damnation. Let me back up again. For the risk of avoiding risk, so there's those two levels of risk: the surface level risk of life, the kind of the surface stuff, the money, the education, the spouse and security, and then the deeper level life risks, the risk of not finding yourself, so to speak, and becoming the man or woman that you want to be. If you go after just the surface level one, you're going to feel like something's missing. If you go exclusively after the deep stuff, you may find yourself living a life like I'm sure you see right here, but with nothing grounding you to the rest of the world, and that can be a pretty bad thing. It's a rare person that can do well in both. I've got both, but I haven't done well with the surface stuff. Like, I don't have much money, and I'll probably work until I'm dead. But that's okay. I'm okay with that, because it's the price I paid for the life that I've taken, and I'm okay with that. Let's get back to the next one, which is sin and damnation. There are 5 sins in my worldview. They're the same thing. Falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, and dogma. Falsity is just, falseness, abiding things that are not true. You're being comfortable with things that are not true, accepting things that are not true. Credulity is the state of being where you're okay with things that aren't true. Faith, which is accepting things that are not true as though that's a virtue. What a ridiculous thing. How did faith ever get the masquerade as a virtue? Faith is accepting things because it's a shortcut to getting you to where you want to be in a comfortable belief, without doing the hard work of actually vetting it and determining if it's true. And if someone tells you that you can only get there from faith, well, that means they've probably got a pretty hollow proposition. Superstition and dogma, easy. Superstition is just a whole class and category of things that we know probably aren't true. And dogma is falsity that tries to masquerade itself, kind of bullies its way into our lives by saying, just believe what's in this book. Just believe dogma. This is it. Just follow it. You don't have to ask. Listen to Pastor Bob. Next, and the sin part is that is damnation. That's the damnation. A damnation is you have to live a damned life by living a life believing things that aren't true or may not be true. Okay, next, I'm almost there. Sin and damnation. Next is complete oblivion. There's nothing after this life, apparently. Once we're dead, there's no final reunion with the ones we love that we left behind or that are going to follow us after death or that went before us. No reconciliation with anyone that we left with on sour terms, and no final justice with anybody after we're dead, with anybody that got away with their sins or their crimes. So seek after a reunion, reconciliation, and justice while you can, because after you're dead, I don't think there's any chance. Almost done. Here we go. Here comes another train. It's quite a ways out. I may finish before it gets here. But again, Temperance. okay if I don't. Next one is it was complete oblivion. Oh, the great life adventure. Doing this kind of stuff. Wow! This is what makes the blood continue to churn inside me, even when I'm at work, even when it's boring, even when I'm sitting in traffic. It's this stuff, and the collection of experiences and ideas and sensations that are just in me, and it's a lifetime of this that form me into the man that I am, that gives me the chance to enjoy the thoughts that I have and sharing the way that I do, and for whatever it's worth or not worth, it's me. And that's because of the great life adventures that I have. So, like I said, give yourself a great life one in the 20s. Give the whole dang decade by the way. And then also sprinkle it throughout life like I do it now, every 2 weeks. Or one night in the desert. Next is just 2 more. Season of philosophy. That's a time to record what we've learned along the way by virtue of our good life, giving ourselves some adventures, living a principled and disciplined life. When you get to a little later in life, you may have something to say. And my recommendation is write it down, speak it, record it, draw it, whatever it is, when the muse speaks, when that voice speaks, comes to you, because you won't be there. The muse has a way of kind of wandering off without us. And when it comes back, it usually has something different to say. So write it down when you can, record it when you can. And then, maybe you'll have something to share. And then last one, arena and utility. All of this is an opportunity. There's another train coming from the other way too. It's an arena for the execution of our principles and our objectives. And which hang on like they hang on a belt, right? All of these 20, whoa, what's that? What was that? Something just kind of raced across the ground. All these objectives and principles, they just kind of hang on our belt, like I pull them up, I'll grab apathy. I need a little apathy right now, or a little temperance. Grab a little temperance, and of course I'm not doing that. I'm be sitting in a meeting, thinking about it. Okay, here I need a little bit of the social principle here, to recognize. Did I skip the social principle? I think I did. Social principle is that we are social animals. We need one another to survive, and I did say that one. Or whatever the case may be throughout life. It's like having this invisible collection of tools that you can use to kind of just, get through the day and live a better life. And that's it. Just kind of walk a little barefoot up here. Barefoot through the desert. And there is metal stuff in here. I could definitely hurt myself. Let's go up here and take a look at this train. And there's the ruins of Siberia right there. My bike. I love looking at my bike like that. It's going to get her horn any second now. Toot, toot, toot. Let's hear your toot. Kind of owie. The long one. That train's on the other side. right behind there. See it? Another train. So that's it. That's my good life meditation for today. It's good to have these moments. It's good to be alive. For what little time it is. Take care, everybody. May you get a good life. Bye-bye.